Hi everyone. Happy Friday. A bit sad today because we just got the news that we're like going back to heightened alert, right? Now,
Yep.
but I think it's all good because the cases are a bit mind-boggling. So everybody, please stay safe and glad to see everyone online. And I think uh, maybe by the next webinar, we will be able to announce some good news about the next stage, about what we're going to do next for our learning journey, because we have been online like so long, right? Maybe it's time to do some hands-on. Uh, so it won't be so soon because the government just announced that we're going to have this heightened alert. So our next stage of workshop, where we hope to be able to do some face-to-face hands-on learning, might be maybe 2 months later. But keep following us on Facebook. We'll announce good news when we have it. And maybe can I have a quick show of hands? Now that I think all of you have started growing veggies at home. Uh, is there anyone here that is not growing anything at home? No? So those who are growing your edibles at home, how many of you are using LED lights? Maybe you can just unmute yourself and say, I'm using LED lights, or you can type in the chat. And if you're using LED lights, do you have a contraption that perhaps help you to turn the lights on and off automatically? Or do you have to remember to turn it on and off every night or every day or at a certain time? Oh, Cal, you use LED lights.
Yes, definitely. I use LED lights.
So do you have a timer?
I use it for currently I'm growing bok choy at home, so I use LED lights. So yes, they help a lot. So I keep it on like about 9 to 12 hours a day. Yeah. So I realized that after germination, the lights are quite important, especially from, I would say, I'll put it on the average from day 5 till day 25. This is quite an important period of time that they need a lot of light. The plants need a lot of light. So unless we are always at home to put it under the sun, so unfortunately we are always out, then I leave the lights on for a good 9 to 12 hours a day.
Wow, 9 to 12 hours.
Yeah.
So you before you go out, you turn it on, and then when you come back, you turn it off. Is that how you?
No, when I sleep. So when I sleep, I make sure they got light. So if I sleep more, 12 hours, they got 12 hours of light.
I see.
Yeah.
So I guess Kelvin is sleeping right beside his picture.
Yeah.
That's why he needs to turn it off.
Yeah.
So let me look at the chat. Oh, so sorry. You were about to say something?
Oh, while we are still waiting for more folks to come in to join us, so I would like to say that Tampines residents, there's a lot of. I noticed that when I'm delivering some of the parcel. So recently I've been to last night I've been to some guys that want our kit. So I realized there's a lot of corridor farming, a lot of enthusiasts. So I'm really wow. So every time I do delivery, it's my opportunity. It's the happiest time of my time to actually look at what people have at their corridor. I really enjoy it.
Let me have a quick look at some comments on the chat. Jeremy says, my progress haven't been very smooth. Been trying for a few batches already, but the seedling isn't doing well. Okay, if we have some time later, maybe we can do some troubleshooting, or you could, Jeremy, post pictures of why of your seedlings condition on the Facebook group, not the pilot program one, the home farming one, Tampines home farming, so that Kel and Chris can have a look and they can help you with troubleshooting. Serena says yes, using lights. One set is hooked up to a timer, another set I have to switch on and off. Okay. And Terry say yes, I use too. So quite a number of you using LED lights, and some of you using timer. And what about nutrient solution? Do you use any sensors to help you test the solution whether the EC or the pH is okay, or do you manually test it with your meter? Do you do testing, Cal?
No, I don't. That's very much Chris. Chris does a lot of that. Right, so, Chris?
Yeah, so I think what Kelvin is doing is he's following the instructions strictly. So what we have developed in LifePlantz is there's a strict regimen of what needs to be done in terms of the growth cycle. So I think that's why Kel has not been using those meters. So give you an example, even the display of our advanced kit, later on we're going to cover some of the advanced kit, is more than 90 days inside the clubhouse. So after 90 days, we have, just by topping up water, we have noticed that the pak choys, the lettuce has started to flower. So that's how long it has been there. I haven't been in the clubhouse for so long that I just asked Calvin to just top up water. So I believe that because of the system that we have developed, there's less need for doing these types of measurements unless we're more in a uncontrolled manner of planting using hydroponics. So what we have done is more of a controlled environment already for hydroponics, which later we will cover.
So I think I'm gonna learn a lot from Chris today, because Kel, I also do corridor planting at home. I have a large corridor, but it's very uncontrolled. It's very lush when there's good sun, and sometimes when it rains, the rain comes in and then suddenly it'll be very green. But then after a few days of neglect, because I don't have time to water, you see them going, so mine is not very controlled.
Yeah.
I have to keep my eyes and just open today and learn from Chris.
Okay.
So shall we start maybe in 30 seconds? We give 30 seconds for the latecomers.
Okay.
So Serena says in the chat group that she doesn't have auto testing for EC and pH, and is thinking that it would be good to have simple and economical auto testing. So the new workshops that we are planning, actually we do need feedback from you guys to help us see how we can make it better. So we are putting together a feedback form, and it's not ready yet, but once it's ready, we're going to send out to everybody to get feedback on what you think. We want you to tell us how we've been doing the past, like today is the webinar number 7, right? So how we've been doing since 1 to 7, and what are the things that you think that we are doing well? What are the things that are not doing well that we need to change? Please tell us. And is there anything that we have left out from day 1 to now, the topics that we covered? Did we miss out anything? Just tell us, and that will help us integrate it into our planning for the next stage of learning. Okay.
I would like to add on.
Hmm.
So I would like to add on. I mean, it's very sad to know that we are counting down to the last webinar, which will be the next webinar, 8th webinar. So after that, what we are working on, Chris, myself, and Dorothy, what we hope to achieve is a live a class, so where we can have all of you attend. So, but unfortunately, today's news come out again with the two-person gathering. So just to brief everyone, I mean, just sharing here. So what LifePlantz is doing this weekend, so tomorrow and Sunday, we're actually going to Sprouts Hub, which is at Henderson. So we actually have a little greenhouse there. We're gonna work with other partners that have a nutrient supplier, light supplier, fertilizer. So we're gonna be very close knit with them. So we hope to actually package everything and bring it to Tampines. So that's my wish. I mean, LifePlantz wish that we hope we can do and see you all in person. Yep, that's all.
What time? What time would you be at Sprouts Hub tomorrow?
Tomorrow about 4:30, between 4:30 to 6, I'll be there.
Okay. Sunday?
Sunday, I probably be there about same timing.
Okay.
Same time. Yeah.
I will catch you there.
Okay.
I love Sprouts Hub. For those who have not been there, I'm going to put in a link in the chat later. Check it out. It's a fantastic place, Sprouts Hub.
Yeah, we can make Tampines like that. We can.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, I think we are good to start.
All right, over to you, Chris.
Yes, thank you very much, and good evening. PGIF again. So some bad news, but there are good news. So we can spend more time with our plants at home, doing planting on our corridors, making sure that everything is fine. So we have covered quite a number of content during our 7 webinars. This is the 7th, yeah. So from lighting to the types of hydroponics, to the nutrient solution, to the growth cycle, up to even pests. So you can check out our YouTube channel, LifePlantz, so that you can, if you haven't, if you weren't able to attend that, you can again drop by on our YouTube channel and watch it. So we will be covering today controlled environment agriculture. So this is now a combination of what we have discussed. So how to control those variables. We have introduced quite a number, from lighting to the nutrient solutions, to the weather, to the pests. So how do we control that? So we're going to cover a few items that I know that is important for all of you to know. So let's get it on. So this is controlled environment agriculture. So what is controlled environment agriculture, or CEA, or otherwise protected horticulture? So it's a technology-based approach in providing the optimal growing conditions for plants. So technology-based doesn't introduce like electronics, AI. So it can be the very simplest of stuffs. So how do you control temperature, humidity, without even using those types of technologies that are really complicated? So it can be very simple, and it can also be very complicated. So later on, we're going to cover some of those. So CEA optimizes the use of these resources. So may it be your like water, growth media, energy, electricity, space, capital, which is your hard-earned money, and even your labor. So the time you are consuming for taking care of your plants. So if you don't like take care and control, prevent things from happening, like problems can happen really fast. So CAA enables crop production all year round. So all year round meaning we're not planting seasonal crops in Singapore. So this is just the green leafy vegetables. We don't have 4 seasons here. We only have like a sunny and a rainy season. So this is what we are trying to control here. Is if it's really sunny and or it's really rainy, too wet or too hot. So that's what we will try to focus on and control. So with this, you have a possibility of increased crop yield. So increasing the production of your green leafy vegetables, which you are planting at home, or even your ornamental plants for display at your house. So what are the controllable variables? So controllable meaning you can tame them to what you want. So this is variables that we can control on a closed ecosystem. So a closed ecosystem, you can control temperature of air, the water for your nutrients, the root system, and the leaf zones. So this is important. For a plant, you need to take care of 2 zones, namely the root zone and the leaf zones. So temperature is one of those that you really want to regulate or to make sure that it's optimal. Also, the humidity of your root and leaf zones. If it's too humid, it's too moist, your root zone could have a problem of having root rot. So we have covered some diseases on our previous topic, so you can catch up on that after this webinar. So how does humidity affect your root system, even your germination process? Then ventilation, really important. Ventilation meaning moving air around from and to your system. Light intensity is another one. We don't want too much light for our hydroponics. In this case, the sun. Too much sun equates to too much heat, right? And if we are using LEDs, then we need to know what is the power output of your LED lighting and how much heat does it generate on doing so. So those are really important things. Another one, controllable variable, is the nutrient concentration. So we have covered this on the hydroponic system, the water part, where we test pH and EC. So this is controllable. Yep, pH and pests. So something that we can manage. How about uncontrollable? So in a nutshell, it's the weather. Whether you like it or not, the weather will be like that. So it can be sunny an hour, and the next hour it can be rainy, just like what happened this afternoon. Really hot during the noontime, then around 3 or 4 it rained, then 4:30 sun hot again, right? So this is something that we really got control. It's the weather that's doing this. So you cannot control the sun. It will come up if it wants to, and it will come down eventually. So good thing that we know what time will the sun come up and what time will it go down, right? But we cannot control that. It will go up and down, definitely. So rain is something that we cannot predict the time, but we can forecast. So like they will say there will be like 20% chances of rain, 30% chance of rain. You cannot ask what time will it rain. So there's chances, it's a forecast. Wind is another one. Recently, there's been quite a number of gusts of wind affecting even our corridors, plants falling down. So be careful when you're putting your plants in the corridors to secure them, because the gust of wind can blow it away and it can fall down on the corridor, or worse, it can fall down on the ground floor, which we don't want to happen. Seasons. So like I said, that Singapore, here, it's either rainy or sunny. So in other places, there are about 4, the seasons. So it goes from their summer, autumn, spring, then winter. So it goes from hot to cold. Even the timing of their day. During the morning, when there's sun, the weather can be comfortable, but when the sun goes out, it will be very cold. So those are microclimate regions that goes from hot to cold really fast. So how do we define the weather? So good example of that is this greenhouse in the picture here. So first, we need to know, how does it work? So what is a greenhouse? So greenhouse is not colored green, it's transparent. So an enclosed frame structure with walls and roof made of transparent material. So why does it need to be transparent? For light to penetrate through, which is sunlight. Greenhouses are most common in those regions or places in the world that has 4 seasons, or where from the day to night shifts from hot to cold very fast. So in Singapore, you will normally don't see greenhouses with an enclosed wall and roof made of transparent material or glass. So what happens is, when the sunlight penetrates through the roof or the side walls of your greenhouse, the light is absorbed by the contents inside. So part of this light is radiation, solar radiation. So it heats up the contents of your internal structure. When the light tries to bounce back out of the glass looks really white because of the reflection of the sun in the sky. So the solar radiation tends to bounce back. That's why you see in the picture, when the solar radiation goes up, it's blocked by the glass, which is now reflected by the sky, which is either really white or blue, and it goes down back to your structure. So this makes the internal structure warm and dry. So if you're in a cold area of the world, then it's very good because you're maintaining a temperature inside and the humidity inside your greenhouse, which is what you want for your certain type of plants. So since it's enclosed, it traps this air. And in order for you to regulate the temperature and the humidity inside, you need ventilation. So ventilate is by pushing cold air into your greenhouse. And since hot air goes up, so it will go out. It will expel. The hot air will be expelled by the cold air coming in. So this is a greenhouse. So something similar, you are hearing like greenhouse gases. So our Earth now has become a really big greenhouse, which is a greenhouse effect. So what happens is the greenhouse gases prevents solar radiation from coming out. So it bounces back to us, which makes our place even hotter than it is. So that's how it works. So in order for you to control, you need ventilation. Unfortunately, if we're talking about greenhouse gases in Earth, the only ventilation that we can do is to turn on our electric fan or our AC. So when we turn on our AC, air conditioning, it contributes more to this problem. So closing the loop. So before we go on closing the loop, let's discuss some sustainability facts or scenarios so that we know what we're talking about in terms of sustainability. So when we talk about sustainability, a good example before was you put your money on a bank, then your money earns interest. You spend based out of the interest. So you're not touching the money that you have put in for years and years to come. So that's sustainable because you're not touching your initial investment in the bank. But you need to be careful what type of currency you're playing with. If you're now doing cryptocurrency and your analogy is the same, it's now totally different. In order for you to have cryptocurrency, it goes through a lot of process. Right? Bitcoin, it goes to a transaction for cryptocurrency and it consumes a lot of electricity. So you need to be careful in how you do the examples. So in terms of closing the loop in agriculture, it's the end-to-end process from the production of the food, how is it produced, how is it processed, and then how is it delivered to either stores, groceries. So how we buy our food? It can be that we physically visit these groceries, right? Or we visit a restaurant instead and have it cooked for us. So in the long run, there will be food waste. So what happens to the food waste, right? Goes to the landfill. So if it goes to the landfill, we're not closing the loop. It needs to be brought inside the cycle, right? Or totally eliminated. Food waste eliminated, then we're eliminating problems that are not closing the loop. So we're getting there, yeah. We're getting there in terms of in terms of introducing technology. So let me give one good example of how we are closing the loop here in Singapore. So we have this since 2012. So it's our gardens by the bay. So a perfect example of what we're discussing today, controlled agriculture environment, closed loop system, where each and every parameters of or variables can be controlled. So you will see that they use a greenhouse using or a glass house because it's the panels are a special glass that it says here 50% sunshade. So it actually is from 65% to 50% to 30% sunshade for gardens at the bay. So we have two domes. Those two domes are about 10, 20,000. 10,000 square feet each. So those two domes lie on a 52-hectare land, reclaimed land, and on that 52 hectare, there's indoor and outdoor gardens. So those domes are, if you go inside the domes, you will feel that the weather is different, the temperature, the humidity. If you want to breathe inside the flower dome or the cloud forest, you will feel different on each of those domes because of the different humidity and temperature of those two domes. So to regulate the temperature of those domes, that's why the dome is scallop sized, so that when it rains, it gets more water than your traditional A-frame. So you'll be able to harvest more rainwater from the design. From the design also, the sloping design, you get more sunlight, right, throughout the day. That's why the displays are all based on where the slope is. So the domes are cooled. The temperature is regulated using the water that it harvests, and it discharges to the reservoir near it. That's why the barrage was made, so that it can be enclosed, and the gardens make use of the water on that particular reservoir on the barrage. So this water is chilled. So chiller uses electricity. The dome itself uses electricity for its additional lighting, and electricity for the establishments inside. So where does it come from? So it comes from an incinerator. So there's a very good incinerator. It's not your traditional incinerator where you like buy coal like you're barbecuing. No, it's not like that. So this is much more complex than that. So this incinerator heats up the green waste that accumulates on the outdoor and indoor gardens. So those gardens, actually, from the cuttings, when you do your gardening, at the end of the day, it's about 17 truckloads of green waste from the gardens. So we're talking about green waste. So where do you put that? So it is fed on this incinerator. So the green waste is first heated up about 650 degrees Celsius, and the chemical reactions of that heating process converts this green waste into syngas, or synthetic gas. Synthetic gas is combination of hydrogen, carbon monoxide, and some carbon dioxide. So the hydrogen that is produced on this incinerator is used to heat up very big collections of water. So once they heat up the water, this is what they use to produce the electricity at the gardens by the bay. And this heated water is also used and distributed along the establishments for the use of like the restaurants, toilets, whatever. So it still produces, there's still a carbon footprint for the gardens, but it's very, very small. So the fumes that are produced is furtherly scrubbed. So remember I mentioned carbon monoxide and some carbon dioxide. So those are eliminated just by cooling it. So it's scrubbed. So water is used to cool. That's the fumes, so that the carbon and carbon monoxide will be harvested. So the super trees are the ones expelling those fumes. So super trees are like chimneys. If you see the chimneys from power plants, they expel a lot of steam. For the super trees, you won't see it at all, yeah? Because it's already scrubbed. Carbon dioxide, steam is already scrubbed before it even goes out of that chimney or the super trees. So this moist, warm air helps regulate the weather, or um, the the temperature on that particular area. That's why they put all the walkways and where people can gather on that super trees, because warm air rises. When the warm air rises, then the air from the surrounding reservoirs or um, will go through as a breeze under the super trees. So you will feel like it's cooler under the super trees because of the warm air coming up, and the cold breeze from your reservoirs going in. So that's how they regulate the temperature in that area. So all of this warm air goes up, converted into clouds, then probably rain clouds, then it will start to rain, then the cycle goes back, goes around and around. So the waste produced by this incinerator gasification process is your fertilizer that's being used on the dome. So it's called biochar. So biochar is also the medium that is being used by LifePlantz. So the Gardens by the Bay is a architectural and engineering wonder. If there's a new wonders of the world, we can easily put Gardens by the Bay inside it. So I know that you have been inside the Gardens by the Bay. So you have seen this diagram. You might have even watched +5 degrees. So +5 degrees is showing what happens when the Earth warms up 5 degrees. And they have been showing it since 2012. Now it's 10 years after, people are still, or governments are still talking about climate change. All right. So in LifePlantz, how did we employ these technologies? So we have made an advanced kit based out of what we have learned into like how to cool, how to maintain temperature, regulate temperature and humidity inside an enclosed area. So this is a simple diagram to show you that we have been using our aeroponic system. So this LifePlantz system is a system of towers, pods, and growing mediums that can be interchanged with your home kits, with your start kits. Okay? So, and we have been employing cold air, hot air model to it, where we chill the water using energy efficient water chiller. So this is not your the refrigerator type chillers. So these are all electric type or semiconductor type chillers. So we made it energy efficient enough to switch on and off as we need it. So we don't really cool it until it's very cold. So we regulate temperature. And we feed cold air inside our chamber to expel the hot air because there's lighting inside at the top and at the sides of our advanced kit. And so with this, we bring down temperature to about 2 to 3 degrees. So instead of your normal 30 degrees, when it comes to your ambient and water temperature, we're bringing it down to the 27, 26 range. So in terms of humidity, our ambient uh, humidity is about, or relative humidity is about 80%. So inside, it will be, inside the chamber, it will be about 50% to 60% humidity because of the cold air that is being pumped in and the movement of the cold air replacing the hot air. So that brings down the humidity. So it's an enclosed system with an indoor and outdoor transparent cover. So these are some pictures. So this is about 40 days into the growth cycle. And this is about 20, 25 days into the growth cycle. The middle one is about 0 days into the growth cycle. There's no plants yet. It's still germinating. So this is how we minimize or made it in compact enough to fit into like corridors or certain part of your houses, balconies. So this is about 2 square feet in footprint, consumes about 200 watts of electricity for lighting and its cooling. So it will add up about $2, $3, $2 per month on your electricity bills. So this advanced kit, how did we develop it? Is using data based out of our sensors. So let's discuss some about sensors and automation in the process. So this is the boring stuff. So bear with me. These are all technical stuffs. I just want to share with you that the whole ecosystem of these sensors are all tiny, tiny devices, electrical devices, which you plug into certain areas of your environment. For example, if you want to measure your ECG, you put in either your Apple Watch. Right now, Apple Watch can measure ECG, or you put in sensors around your body. So these sensors monitors or detects changes in the environment. So these are all electrical impulses. Yeah? So if it detects that there's an electrical impulse that is changing in my body, then it will translate it to something readable by human beings like us. Right? So these events and changes in electrical signals are fed into a microcontroller or a computer. Then data is translated to a readable format so that it can be put into a database. So later on, I'm just going to show you some of the data that we have been gathering, how we gather it, where do we put it, on which database, and how do we visualize. So the computer is configured with thresholds. So threshold meaning there's a limit of minimum and maximum. So if we talk about temperature, if my maximum is 30 degrees, 35 degrees, I put in as a maximum threshold 35 degrees. Minimum is 20 degrees Celsius. What happens when I reach 35 degrees? There needs to be an action that is correlated with that particular measurement. So it's either I can turn on an electric fan if I hit that temperature, right? So that ventilation can happen immediately. And when it goes down back to your range, like 25 degrees, electric fan will turn off. So those are called relays. So relays controls those actions that we need, like turn on the fan, turn on the light. Right? So these are all the devices or sensors that detects the changes in electrical impulses. So automation comes after getting the data. So it's really important for us to get accurate data, because if you're not getting accurate data, then you might be measuring wrongly and your actions are definitely going to be wrong. So we have covered this on one of our webinars, where we used some meters, pen meters called the pH and the EC meter. So it needs to be calibrated. So how to know when it's calibrated, right? So there's definitely be a control that you need to put in when it goes to monitoring. That's why they will say, who's monitoring our monitoring? I've been on the IT field for very long. I've installed a lot of monitoring, and some will still ask me, what monitors our monitoring system? So it's just through regular maintenance and calibration that you will be able to make sure that you have accurate data. And now data is very important. It's like the new gold of this century. He who has the data, yeah, can control a lot of stuff. Even now going to machine learning and into artificial intelligence. So let me just stop this share. Let me just go through one of our dashboards. Let me share my dashboard. Where is it? Okay. So this is one of our microcontrollers or our computers that is on the edge, meaning this is on one of our advanced kits. This is installed on one of our advanced kits. So now, due to technology, now it's called Internet of Things. So these small devices is internet connected. So you will see here that it's operator Singtel. So meaning I have a SIM card installed there. So it's LTE. What's the battery life of that device? So, and what types of sensors are inside? So we have this temperature, humidity. So these are all the small electrical devices which detects changes into electrical impulses. So when I try to get information, then it will give me my temperature. That advanced kit is about 26.52 degrees Celsius. What is my humidity? So it will show me 36 relative humidity, right? So this is the information that is readable, not by the machine, but us, human beings. So if it's the machine, it will just be one and zeros. So this is one big topic itself. So that we plan to share with you on how to configure these types of microcontrollers and sensors. Probably in the future, we'll be able to share it with you in a face-to-face or a webinar setup. So even the ambient light, which is a par meter, which is now 37.58. So a par meter, it's covered on our lighting. So you visit our lighting, you will get to know what is par, photo synthetic active radiation. So we monitor that. Okay, so all of this data now, all of these numbers are stored into a database and is presented. Let me just show you the dashboard. Hold on. So this is a sample of how we represent data on what we are reading. So don't get surprised about the pH, 3.73. This is an advanced kit that we're testing a very high acidity of water and how does it affect plants. So now our water temperature is about 26, ambient temperature is about 27. Okay, good. So this is how we visualize the data. So we can drill down what are these two peaks here. So we pick 29.5. So 0.5 is okay, right? And pH, how the changes in the temperature changes the pH, right? Total dissolved solids, meaning how much of solids is actually dissolved in the water. PPFD, which is our par meter. Moisture level, which is basically what is our moisture inside our tower. VOC is air quality, etc., etc. So let's just change this to see the last 3 hours. So last 3 hours, we have seen that our barometer actually dropped the pressure at around 4 o'clock, which should be accurate enough because there were rain at around that time. So rain is considered a low pressure area. Low pressure meaning that our wind or there's a lot of warm air going up, thus giving us low pressure. If it's going high, a high pressure, now meaning it's the other way around. So from the top, which is much cooler, the wind goes down to us. Thus, the wind becomes drier and it becomes a high pressure. So that's how we translate this data. So there's a lot of correlation behind it. So probably on the next webinars or even a face-to-face, we can go to this in details. I know that you'll be very interested or very sleepy right now. So let me just show you the thresholds, like how we configure thresholds. So if I edit this parameter, you will see how I query the database and how I configure our thresholds. So I just add a threshold and I put a correlated event on how this particular threshold needs to be addressed. In this case, it's a pH. So how do we control pH? If it's acidic, then we put like baking soda to increase the alkalinity, right? So there is a solution of water and baking soda that is dosed into the chamber to automatically control it. So what happens, it becomes too alkaline. If it's too alkaline, then we put like citric acid, solution of citric acid slowly, so that it will balance the pH. So that's the same for EC. If it detects that it's a very low EC, like what we have right now, then it will dose our nutrients like a dissolved NPK solution. So that's how we do visualization. So we do hope that we can provide a more detailed into this IoT space or Internet of Things space. It does require more time and sometimes hands-on for you to get into the interest. So let me just go back to our presentation. Okay, so now DIY. DIY, controlled agriculture environment. Number one on the list that we can recommend is humidity domes. So it's just like your gardens by the bay domes. Yep. So these domes are really simple. You just need to find your, you just need to buy some bubble tea. Make sure you don't throw the cups so you can make use of the cups afterwards. So it traps humidity and promotes germination. So if you're having a hard time with your seeds germinating or completing the germination, I suggest you use humidity domes. So humidity domes not only regulate humidity, but it brings down the temperature. And if you're using deep water culture with air stone, this greatly benefits because deep water culture is like for this one it's stagnant. The water is not circulating, so it's stagnant. Or you disturb the water using an air stone. So the air stone now brings air into this dome, and with moisture, it cools it down further. So we see that about it can cool it about 1 degrees Celsius. We can bring it down 1 degrees. So at a hot day, 1 degrees is a big thing. Right? So it can greatly help on your germination. So that's humidity dose. Next on the list is netting. You will see this normally on when you visit farms. It's the structure they have, though it's called the greenhouse. It's instead of glass, it will be using nets. So those nets are to actually either prevent sunlight, full sunlight. So when you see black netting, that's about 50% sunlight. And if you see the white one, that's the full that is full sunlight. So what you are trying to mask if you're using a white netting is either wind, so it acts like a windbreaker. It helps prevent rain damage, especially when it's heavy rain. So when it's heavy rain, usually the droplets are very big. And if there's a big wind, all of your leaves will be gone. So netting installed properly also deters insects. So take note of that. It deters insects. So it prevents and manages those creepy crawlies. But the small ones depends on how thin your net is. If we talk about aphids, they're very small. Even the smallest netting, they can penetrate through. So you still need to like regularly check. So that's netting, either for shading, protecting from wind and rain, or pests. Okay, so now it's temperature control with an on and off timer. So this is how it looks like. So you can buy this out of Lazada, Shopee. So it's a temperature controller with an on and off timer. So it has a probe which can detect temperature. So if you just leave the probe, it will detect its surroundings. And if you want to measure your the nutrient solution, you can put the probe on your nutrient solution, then it will see its temperature. So now you can put in some control. If it's too hot, you can plug in an external fan just to help on the ventilation, right? Or you can use the on and off timer for lights instead. And if it becomes too hot, it turns off the light, right? Very ingenious. So this is about $15 to $20 in Lazada, Shopee, Amazon. So you can take a look afterwards. So if you feel more courageous to do your own wiring, then you can do this Wi-Fi temperature and humidity control. So this one, you need to do some wiring. So you definitely need some electrical skills, not electrocuting yourself, electrical skills to wire and do some pairing. It has an application. So the app, you can now control what is your actions if the temperature and humidity is high. So it could be an external fan as well. So it can be paired with a mobile app. So you can remotely turn on and off this fan, and you can even see if the fan is running and what is the current temperature or humidity on your system. Okay. So those are very basic stuffs. So humidity dome, try it out if you're having problems with your germination or completing the germination process. Netting, if you have a problem with too much sunlight, the black ones, 50%. And if you want to control, if you want to monitor temperature and put some rule actions like turn on a fan if it's too hot, then you can make use of these devices that I've shown you, right? So that concludes our topic today. So let's go to some Q&A.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Before we go to Q&A, are there anybody who has fainted already? But I really appreciate you showing the back end of it, because it's very important, I feel, that we shouldn't switch our mind to such things, because sometimes it gets quite overwhelming. Calls back to mind when I was younger and we were going from the old school telephone, yeah, I'm that old, to pager and then to mobile phones. And some of the older folks in the home, they're like, I refuse to learn pager and I refuse to learn mobile phone. So times have changed and we have been moving very fast. So now that we are here, when everything is IoT, Internet of Things, I think it's important whether we actually do get to use it or not, keep an open mind. Don't just shut. I don't understand, shut already. And also, sometimes the theory can be overwhelming, but when we do hands-on, we realize actually it's not that difficult, where we can touch it, feel it, and see how it is applied. So that's why we hope to get on to a hands-on workshop that we can get into the more tactile learning bit. But in the meantime, don't close your mind to all these seemingly more technical stuff. It can be fun, okay? So looking at the chat.
Well, I add on, I almost fainted when I saw the pH level, it reminds me of cryptocurrency. Up and down, I was like, wow, so familiar. Like Bitcoin going up and down.
Have you been buying cryptocurrency? It's very scary.
Yeah, pH and EC is like that. It's not for the faint-hearted. If you see your pH going down, you will almost faint. Then you will end up like putting a lot of like to bring up the pH. You put what they call that, the baking soda. So you end up putting too much, and you will see your pH now very high. So now you faint again. So now you end up putting too much vinegar. Your pH again goes down very low. So take it in steps.
Yes. Slow and steady. Observe before you act too quickly. Okay. Looking at the chat, we see that Eugene has a question that is not directly pertaining to technology. Can you recommend an alternative to hydrogen peroxide solution for removal of algae in the hydroponics kit? I think he's referring to the OTH kit. I think he's having a lot of trouble with algae. Besides hydrogen peroxide, is there anything else that he can use?
Okay. So once you have a bloom of algae, then it will be very difficult to control. So the challenge is how to manage it. A little bit of algae, fine, is good. But if you see it inside, even on the insides of your chambers for your kits or your hydroponic kits, then there could be a problem of light leaching in or reaching the inside of the chambers. We don't want light inside the chambers. So we want it in full darkness. So you may want to cover those parts that can penetrate light on. So what you can do is you make use of those trash bags, those black trash bags. You cut it and you cover. You just plug a hole on your in your medium. Then this is your plant. You just cover it on the top. Then put it on the holes of your kit on your system. Yeah. So if you see any other holes that can penetrate light on, you need to cover it. So that's how you control algae on your medium, on your growth medium, and inside your kit. But once you see it inside the kit, then that's very hard to control unless you deprive it of light. But once you deprive it of light, the algae now will die and will become organic matter. So that organic matter now will also become a problem. So once you see algae blooming already, then it might need to reset the system. Unfortunately, that's the only way that we can do it. We need to reset it, meaning remove all the plants, clean the insides, and then do another cycle.
Clean meaning scrub.
Yep, scrub it, dry it out, then restart the kit. So meaning putting the water again, the nutrients, then bringing back the plants.
Okay.
Algae is quite difficult when it's already inside the system, but a little bit is okay. It's about managing it.
All right. Good luck, Eugene. So CP is asking, can you reiterate the information pertaining to baking soda and acid used for pH control? So how do you control pH?
Yeah, so it's either too acidic or too alkaline. Acidic is when you use your pen, the pH pen, and when you read less than 5, when it goes to the range of 4, it's acidic already. So as a comparison, the lemon is about pH 2. The vinegar is about pH 1.5 to 2. Right? So to control it, to bring it up, let's say you're now pH 4.5. To bring it up, you need to dilute baking soda That's what you can. Yeah, that's what you'll be able to use off the shelf. Baking soda diluted in water in small increments. Put like assuming that it's your OTH kit, which is a 5 liter tank. So you put it on your tank, 5 liter. You start with 20 ml. Right? So 20 ml and observe what happens in 30 minutes. So that should bring it up to about range of 5.5, where you want it to be. So anything more than that, it might reach to 6, 7 range of pH. So when you overdose, then you need to balance it again. You need to bring it down. So your normal sources of acids at the house is vinegar. Another one is your lemon. If you have lemon, use it because it's pH 2, so it can bring down. So it's also the same, but for pH, it needs to be more less. For a 5 liter tank, you can put in about 5 ml increments to see what will happen to your pH.
Okay, the baking soda and the lemon or the vinegar will not poison the plants, right?
Nope, nope.
Okay.
But what will happen if you put too much baking soda, because it's a carbonate. It has a very high carbonate component, so it tends to solidify. You will notice a lot of solidification, like especially when you're running motors, pumps on your system, and it's submersible pumps. When you tend to use a lot of baking soda, it accumulates into pumps, which actually blocks the pump from running. So you also need to be careful on how much you dose. So sometimes it's more easy or safer to change water. Like it's really hard to regulate. So what I do is I remove 50% of that nutrient solution, put it on, flush it on the toilet, or put it on my plants, or dilute it further, put it on my plants, or then I'll put 50% of water. So that will tend to regulate it more. So I learned that approach from aquariums. So that's what I do when I have an aquarium. Because aquarium, you have live fishes inside, and you don't want to kill them by putting too much chemicals. So you tend to replace the water.
Okay, that's good advice. Jeremy asked, other than measuring the pH, nutrients, pressure, is there any way to properly measure plant growth to do some correlation?
Yeah. Okay. So if you really want to go into the details of growing your plants, you can do it manually, right? Taking pictures or measuring, using your thermometer, and instead your database will now be Excel or paper. So once you have put in the measurements manually via Excel or paper, then you will tend to see the correlation. Though it's faster when there's IoT, but if you want to go like really old school and you don't have any of these devices, you can do the measurements manually and key them in Excel or paper. Then you will see what happens when you do certain changes into the system. Like, for example, the previous question, if I dose 20 ml of baking soda into a 5 liter tank, what happens to the pH? So you write it down, key it in, so that you will have a learning experience of what is the cause and effect of what you're doing.
Actually, this is a very good basic way of um, using data, because sometimes when we observe, it doesn't, the correlation doesn't occur to us. But when we plot it down, just simply recording it and then reviewing it, we see a trend. So that helps. NM folk ask which are the most important parameters to monitor in the Singapore climate condition.
Okay, so for a hydroponic system, it's a pH and EC, definitely a must for you to monitor. So pH and EC is affected by temperature. So if you're using hydroponics, you need to maintain your temperature below 30 degrees Celsius. Or if you can bring it down further to 25 degrees Celsius, then that's the sweet spot of our nutrients. So that's the where the roots can absorb more nutrients, or they can absorb better at that temperature range. Humidity as well, especially when you're doing germination during the germination process. So if you do not introduce moisture and heat, your germination could never happen. So it's just, you need to also strike the balance between the temperature and the humidity. That's why humidity domes, number one suggestion for you to control your climate inside that dome when you're germinating. So when you're selecting medium, the growth medium that you need to use for our weather here is it needs to irrigate water really fast. So you can use coco peat, volcanic rock. Those tends to disperse or drain water really fast. Because if you go to YouTube, sometimes you will search what is the best growing medium. So you will find somebody in Europe or US saying that this is the best medium. But there's one big difference. In US, depends on where they are. It could be cold or dry. So in Singapore, we're always high humidity. So that's why we always have root rot problems on our plants, ornamental, even on our green leafy vegetables. So striking a balance on the watering, the moisture on our medium is also number one.
Actually, that nicely leads into NM Folks' second question: how to control the humidity of the roots?
So in the root system, humidity is based on the media that we're using. But sometimes the root system grows really, really long. That's why we have, during the growth cycle webinar, we suggested on cutting roots so that it will not grow really wild into our, or really long into our system. So the important part of the root system is what we have on our medium. So that's what we need to maintain. So our medium needs not to be really moist. It needs to be perfectly balanced, draining water, and not retaining too much moisture.
Okay. So I suppose, like, if you have hydroponics, a deep water culture, you wouldn't be talking about humidity for the root section because it's always immersed in the liquid, but more for like aeroponics situation.
For DWC, because for DWC you don't top up the water, so your chamber for your DWC is for the whole life cycle of the plant. So what happens is, if you have this high of water, then once the plant grows, the water goes down. So your root system has enough air, and enough of it is just submerged. And since you have your air stone, this air stone gives droplets of your nutrient solution to the roots that is not already submerged into water. So DWC, don't top it up really often. It needs to go down as the root system goes down.
Okay, all right. Serena says, Thanks for sharing. Sounds very high tech. Would it be expensive to scale down for home use? I guess like the bubble tea cup and the netting would be a form of scaling down for home use. But there are other ways of scaling down for home use also. What other recommendations do you have?
Yeah. So depends on how much your bubble tea is. Some are really expensive. So suggest buying the cheap bubble teas. And these plastic cups, you can just buy in SKP. It's really cheap. So you can put holes on it and just put it on your system. So in terms of the high-tech stuff, so this stuff comes on a kit. So this kit, a starter, where depends on the interest level. But I know a lot of you is interested on these types of high-tech stuff. So it's very easy. It's not that when you introduce like sensors, IoT, it it will overwhelm you. No, it will not overwhelm you. So these kits are as easy to use, as user friendly as your phones. Uh, Programming it is drag and drop, so it's really fun to use. So it's just like Lego, connecting stuffs and seeing the result of what you're doing. So that's what we're trying to explore on our face-to-face sessions when there's an interest in IoT sensors. So how you can apply it on your day-to-day gardening, even on other stuffs at your house. Probably if you want to like check on the air quality, that's one of these kits that one of the things that these kits can do.
Right, cool. Terry has a question pertaining to the leaders in the CEA space in Singapore. Who are the leaders in controlled and climate? What is climate? No, controlled environment agriculture. Who are the leaders in Singapore?
So number one is we discussed the Gardens by the Bay. So they have a research part which is not seen by the visitors. So they have more than 90% of the plant species. They have it there. So it's just like a Noah's Ark of plants. If there's something to happen that these plants get extinct, we have it at Gardens by the Bay. So that's number one right now. So in terms of commercial farms that has this, there's what Kelvin mentioned earlier, the city sprouts. They have a very good example of controlled environment agriculture in their premises. So they also rent out plots which has automated water sprinkler system. So and to regulate your temperature and put water on your plants. So it's a very good start at City Sprouts. We have seen their setup. So they also have an indoor farm which they grow. I'm not sure if it's strawberries, but it's really good also. And they have containerized farming, which they're exploring. So LifePlantz is also there. Probably we employ these technologies, miniaturize it so that it can fit to community level, your house or home gardening, and even commercial spaces. So there's quite a big number of these high-tech farms in Singapore already.
Okay. So for those people who are really interested, they should go to City Sprouts to look for you guys tomorrow, right?
Yep. And they can even drop down at our workshop. We can schedule a visit, 2 people only.
All right. Okay, a few more questions. And then folk is asking, I'm using LED lights. Can you comment on the control lights, like different light level for different time of the day or during rainy seasons?
Okay, so we have this daily light index based on what type of crop we are growing. Usually, the daily DLI or daily light index that we need to give our plants is about 12 hours if it's artificial lighting. This is considering if we're giving it enough light or photosynthetic active radiation. So you need to measure your PAR. It needs to be at least the range of 200. So if you're in the range of 200, then your DLI will be 12 hours, right? So you can easily compute how long, or if you're like only half of that, meaning you need to light it up 24 hours, but we cannot light our plants 24 hours. So which means you need to put in more lights just to sustain that 12-hour period of lighting, right? So it's a mix of your photosynthetic active radiation, PAR, and your DLI, daily light index, intended for your crop. So you can think the slides are in our Facebook group, if I'm not mistaken, for lighting. Let me check that. If not, then you can just browse through our YouTube channel on lighting. There will be some discussions there. So you can base your timer on that daily light index. So I suggest you, because sometimes they will ask, can I light it? Can I start my lights during nighttime and it ends in the morning, right? So there has been research of people doing that, but I don't recommend doing that due to these lights are quite powerful, and we don't want to disturb our neighbors seeing very bright lights on our window, sometimes pink lights on our windows. So we tend to like light it up during the daytime, right? So that we don't disturb anybody, our neighbors especially.
All right. Let me go and try to see whether I can find that slide. If I can, I'll do a post on FB. And then folks say it's very interesting sharing from Chris today. Thank you very much. Thank you for staying for the rest of what staying till now. I think everybody is staying till now. Thank you. So last question, can I use cotton ball from Eugene is asking the last question. Can I use cotton wool and lacquer balls to germinate my spinach or lettuce seeds in net pots? He's using the OTH system.
Spinach seeds, yes. But however, when the cotton becomes submerged into water that long, or becomes moist very long, when your root system grows, it will be very hard to remove that cotton material. Because I don't recommend retaining the cotton material. If you can remove the cotton material and put it only on the leca balls, then it will be better. If not, I think that you're using your cotton balls just to, not for the seeds to drop down on the system. So if that's the case, if you have leca balls, a combination of rock wool or foam that you can buy on Daiso, or you can use that as well.
Okay, all right. Thank you. So thank you for everyone for staying till now. It's Serena said she tried to germinate using leca, not so good. Still use some sponge. Okay, all right. For those who have a success in germinating using leca, so maybe you can share on the Facebook group. And I'm going to quickly hand over to Kel now, since we are very much overrun today. Kel.
Oh yeah, it's almost 9:30. So I want to summarize today. I mean, to me, these are very much artificial intelligence that I'm so encouraged that everyone had glued on questions coming in. I'm really encouraged to even bring this to a live session with everybody, so Chris and myself can actually be more hands-on and engage with everyone. So thank you very much. Lucky draw session. So this time round, since we talked about controlled environment, so I'm going to add a little more thing to it. So instead of a start kit, I'm just going to add in this. So we have a light. So since we're going to be spending more time at home, we can't go out. So something simple, USB, plug in, we have a light. Always remember the lesson that we had, 5 cm, how high are we, how much time, so we can grow as a germinate kit. So you can do this just by beside your laptop. That's what I'm actually doing right now. So having a webinar, and I still watch my little bok choy growing. So I'm going to draw 2 names for this. So you come with this little light here. So let's see. I have a Melvin. Congrats, Melvin. So I'm going to write to you. I have your email address. Congrats. And let me see. I have Jamie. Jamie, okay, congrats, Jamie. So congratulations. Hope to see you all in our last webinar. The next webinar is our last webinar, and really hope to see you all in person. Just hope this social gathering quickly get over it. We can really see each other in person. Yeah. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone. And also the feedback form, help us with that when we send that out to everyone. I'm sorry, Chris, did I cut you off just now?
No, it's okay. I was just telling Kelvin that light, we measured the power of that light. So it's about 150-ish PAR. So you need to light up your green leafy vegetables with that light for at least 12 hours. So DLI is 12 hours on 150 PAR.
For what did you say? 2 hours, is it?
12 hours.
Oh, 12. Oh, sorry. 12 hours, 5 cm from the top of the veggie. Okay. All right.
And our next will be more interactive. It will be 3D printing in farming. 3D printing, we will do some designing. So it's exciting. I will send some website for you to register for us to do our designs. So I think the raffle draw on that one will be an actual visit on our workshop to print what they designed. So so something that everybody can look forward to design their own, like a pod or something that they can use on their OTH kit and print it on our workshop. Then it's either we print it and we send it to them, or they can visit and see how is it printed. So really exciting stuff for next week.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll get the details from the guys and then post it, okay?
Right.
Thank you, everyone, for staying till now. Good night and rest well. Take care.